What's up, guys? Aussie Sim Commentator here. How are you doing tonight? We are here live from the Pocono Speedway for round number 8 of Output Racing League. It looks like the guys are already starting to line up for a pit party, so we're going to go join them very quickly, and then we're going to get back into the commentating thing. So we're going to get this showing you guys the track out of the way very early. Now we're going to drop to the back of this pack when they start rolling. Go get all lined up and ready to go. Also, guys, my deepest and fondest apologies for all the sniffing and coughing that you guys may or may not hear today. I am suffering from a cold.
Car outside. Still on the right. Clear outside. Slow car on bottom. Slow car ahead. Slow car on bottom. Car outside. Clear outside. Car outside. Clear outside. Car outside. Still on the right.
Alright, so it looks like we're going for a fairly quick
Car outside.
run to the line here.
Still on the right. Still on the right.
As we start to slow down coming out of turn 3.
Still on the right. Clear outside.
Very draft heavy track is Pocono, but only on these fairly long straightaways. These corners are fairly difficult because they're all 3 different corners and need to be tackled in different ways.
Car inside. Still on the left. Clear inside.
Oh, and saved it. Looks like Brandon Miller there was not so fortunate.
Stay right.
So now that we're out of the draft a little bit, maybe we could show you how to run this track solo. Because that little bit of aero push looks like it's still playing a bit of havoc.
1 minute, 2.453.
So the first corner you can take fairly fast. Just a slight little lift. And then you can just gradually feed the throttle back on, get back into it. As we see some more death and destruction there from Jerry Glenn. Turn 2, in the first couple of laps you can actually take flat. 0 lift, which is what we should expect to see from the leading car and the cars in qualifying. The turn 3, just all about getting that nice exit. Just be nice and smooth and consistent. I got a little bit of damage on my car, so that kind of ruined that for me.
3.035.
And after a few laps, downshifting is a very viable option. As my cat goes and does things that shouldn't. Silly kitten. And the pit road here is a fairly easy one, actually. The setup for it's all coming out of turn 3 here. And just like that, we're in the pits.
Start looking for your sign.
Alrighty, so having a look now, Matt Burgess in the 12 car. We've got a very small field here today so far. Only 11 registered for the race. Matt is currently P2 behind Thomas Harmon with a 51.725. Definitely nothing to sneeze at. Right behind him is the 78 of Brian Pizzicami, who has only amassed a 52.211. Frank Isaacson right behind him. Frank down with a 52.643 in 11th place. Oh, as we see Jaron going for a big spin there, smashing that inside wall. Jerry Glenn right behind these two, pouring all the pressure on the back of Frank. Going into turn 3 there. Looks like he's trying to get the run going, but he just can't yet. As I see on the front of Brian's car, he's still running the picture of Jaron, league owner and operator, and his puppy. Jerry now getting around Brian like he was standing still as we got another spinner up ahead. Oh, I'm not sure who that was. I think that might have been Jonathan Hernandez. In fact, it was Jonathan Hernandez. Let's go back and have a quick squiz at what happened to him. He just hit the wall on the exit of turn 2, carried too much speed. Went for a big spin, almost had it saved. Oh, then he went nose to nose with Frank Isaacson. And now we're following Jaron Sanchez, league owner and operator. He's right up there with Jerry and with Matt Burgess now, after going and getting a new car after he had a crash earlier. Oh, and there's contact. I'm not actually completely sure what happened there. That was weird. Nevertheless, we'll keep going. See who else we're going to look at. Got Brian Pizzicami on screen with Frank Isaacson right in front of him. Again, apologies for my sickness, guys. It's definitely going to make this probably one of the worst broadcasts that we've done so far. But nevertheless, we'll endeavour to get through it together. Because why not? Let's see Frank holding off Brian. Brian getting a little bit of that push that these cars are so fond of. Lost a little bit of time there, but not too terribly much. Only a couple of tenths. As they come through the treacherous tunnel turn number 2. Both of them taking the apron there. Both of them pulling it off. Brian still hasn't gained any of that time back that he lost in turn 1. In fact, he's losing a little bit more time now. Yeah, he's just definitely not getting any of those gains. In saying that, in turn 1, he pulled up a couple of tenths back on Frank there. Frank being slightly balked by that car that was running around the inside. Brian now getting the move made in turn number 2. That was a nice smooth move that he set up early before the start of the corner. And he pulled it off with perfection. As for some reason, iRacing just wants to keep focusing on these guys. Let's see who else we got on track. Got Thomas Harmon there in the 38. He's behind Brandon Bennett and Jerry Glenn. And in the background, just as we go off them, got a big crash. Let's go back and have a look. Frank goes wide. Oh, they both hit the wall and they take Jonathan Hernandez into the wall, inside wall with them. That's the way to do it, boys. Now we see Thomas Harmon again, the winner in DRL yesterday here at Pocono. And he's definitely showing that he's got the experience here this week with his 51.643. We've still got such a small field to take on the race today. Only 14 registered for the race now. Again, my apologies for the coughing, sneezing and sniffing. I'm probably going to be saying that a lot throughout this broadcast, guys. As I see now, Brian Pizzakemi closing in on the back of Thomas Harmon there. With his slightly newer car. Oh, Jerry Glenn going for a big spin there at pit entry. Brian now looking low on Thomas Harmon, gets the move made in turn 1 with absolute ease. background of that previous shot, we saw Jaron Sanchez going for another spin. I'm just wondering where Justin Bowe is. Justin expressed interest in wanting to come race this race and in fact the rest of the season. And it looks like he's not here yet. He must be busy with real life stuff. As we're now having a look at Frank Isaacson and Jonathan Hernandez as they're going through turns number 1 now. And now we've jumped over to Thomas and Brian Pizzicami again. The roles have reversed again. Somewhere, somehow, Thomas has gotten around Brian. This hasn't helped Brian to climb his way up the leaderboard at all. As we see their pass being made, or at least attempted, by the 88 of Jonathan Hernandez on Frank Isaacson. As we see the telltale smoke of another car who's bitten the dust on the exit of turn 1. Now Frank goes a little bit wide. There's contact by Jonathan. It goes all the way down to the apron of the track. He's going to come all the way back up behind Frank. We're going to go check in behind these guys with the 16 of Charles Becker and the 1 of Brandon Bennett. Charles Becker is currently in P5, Brandon Bennett currently P8. These guys looking like they're just trying to keep it nice and smooth and consistent. As we're now just past 7.5 minutes left in practice. Looks like Charles Becker is just playing around with the draft a little bit there. Just braking it ever so slightly. Brandon Bennett got a little bit of a slower exit out of turn 1 there. Looks like he might be playing the save game a little bit. Now they're following in each other's footsteps. Oh, and we got a blown engine there for Brandon Bennett as he smashes the back of Matt Burgess, who was just sitting there at pit exit. Now we've got the 21 of Brian Chambliss on screen in a world all by himself. See in the background there, Thomas Harmon and Brian Pizzicami, sorry, diving for the pit lane after they're coming out of turn 3. Looks like everyone is actually in the pits right now, except for Brian Chambliss. So coming into turn 2 now. So Jaron was having a quick little look down low, didn't go for it. Brian Chambliss now is going to take that low line and pass Jaron like he was standing still. And we have half a minute left in this practice session, so these guys aren't going to make this next lap around. So now Brandon Bennett going for the big move on Frank Isaacson with 7 seconds left in this practice. And Jonathan Hernandez has spun on the entry to turn 2, which has collected Jaron Sanchez. And that is the end of practice right there. And now we are rolling out for qualifying. Certain people that don't want to be the lead car, certain people that do want to be the lead car. Travis Massio is sending his regards. Sucks that he couldn't be here tonight. As we're looking at the 8 of Frank Isaacson here. Now we're going to be chopping and changing between different drivers all the time, because we're not going to focus on one particular driver here in quali. Sorry about that, guys. I had to mute myself for a big cough. Now these guys want to be careful with the bump drafting in quali, because if you go to 0x, then that null and voids your lap. And with the tyre wear around here, you really want to make your first lap count. At the moment, Thomas Harmon straight up to the pointy end of the field with a 51.397. Charles Becker slotted himself into second with a 51.5. Matt Burgess with a 51.59 in third. Jonathan Hernandez with a 51.615 in fourth. Jaron Sanchez with a 51.699 in fifth. We now have 18 drivers in this session. Oh, Brandon Bennett goes for a big spin there. I think that's coming off a turn 2. It's unfortunate for him. He's down in 7th at the moment. And Brian Chambliss has actually taken to the point now with a 51.338, eclipsing Thomas Harmon by 0.059 of a second. As everyone's trying to find that perfect bit of space, that perfect drafting partner to try and gain whatever advantage they can. Got Brandon Stevens on the screen at the moment, currently P9, with Jerry Glenn, who is yet to start a lap in front of him. Jerry has now just slotted himself into ninth. Oh! What the hell was that? The 3 comes off of turn 4. And just pulls up in front of everyone? Alrighty. So that makes a whole lot of no sense. Guys will have to just give me a second. Alrighty guys, it's time to go through the list of starters and drivers. We're going to do this one from rear chase, I think. Starting on the pole, we have the 21 of Brian Chambliss. On his outside will be the 38 of Thomas Harmon. Row 2 inside, we're going to have Matt Burgess. On his outside, the 16 of Charles Becker. And we're going to have the 88 of Jonathan Hernandez starting out of 5th. And on his outside will be the 4 of Jaron Sanchez. Starting out of P7 will be the 1 of Brandon Bennett. And on his outside will be the 86 of Gerald West. Then out of 9th we're going to have Dylan Patterson. On his outside will be the 98 of Gerald Glenn. Or Jerry Glenn, sorry. Out of 11th we're going to have the 28 of Brandon Stevens. On his outside will be the 18 of Brian Beach. And we're going to have the 7 of Brian Harris out of 13th. The 22 of Brandon Miller out of 14th. Frank Isaacson in the 8 will start out of 15th position, with Dustin German in the 99 out of 16th. Out of 17th we're going to have Brian Pizzakemi. And on his outside will be no one. And by himself behind Brian will be the 42 of Logan Lansford. This is your starters and drivers for this race this evening. I just got to go and check something real quick here. Yep, he has indeed disconnected. It's going to be an interesting race here, guys. 60 laps around this man-made hell that is Pocono Speedway. Originally built as an IndyCar track, but NASCAR drivers and fans seem to have a liking for it as well. Now, as we see the pack making their way around turn number 3, we're going to get ready to go. The pace car is in,
Go, go, go.
and
Green
we
flag.
are off and racing here for round number 8 of the Output Racing League, live from Pocono Speedway. Looks very early, like Brian Chambliss is going to have the advantage. Going into turn 1, but Thomas is no fool. He knows how to hold it, and he knows how to fold it. But Brian definitely having the point going into turn 1. Just about getting some overlap there from Thomas coming on exit. Going to turn 2. Thomas trying to look around the outside. Brian not having any of it. We had a slower car in the back there. I'm not sure who that was. I don't see any dramas. As they come around and finish the first lap, Brian Chambliss is the point man, but now he's under pressure from Thomas Harmon on the inside. Thomas not quite getting that move made just yet. He still has Brian sitting there at his rear quarter. In fact, Brian with an excellent run off of turn 1. Getting the advantage in the overlap there. They go through turn 2 side by side. And Thomas just can't quite get Brian cleared. But he gets him cleared coming into turn 3. That move took the entire lap to pull off. It was great driving by these two. As we're going to go look back here a little bit. Looks like we just had the 3 of Dylan Patterson make a move on the 88 of Jonathan Hernandez, and we see a bit of a battle forming back here a little bit. Frank Isaacson, Brian Beach, and Dustin German there. Another battle behind these guys. The 22 of Brandon Miller, Brian Pizzakemi, and Brandon Bennett. Got all the Bryans and Brandons here at the back, and one at the front. Speaking of the front, we're going to go back to having a look at Thomas here. Still in the lead. Oh, Brian Chambliss almost getting into that turn 1 wall there. It looks like we're going to have a bit more battling here with the 3 of Dylan Patterson. As Jaron could have almost stuck his nose up there and made that 3 wide. Right behind him, we've got Gerald West and Brandon Stevens looking very aggressive. We've got Jerry Glenn back there as Dylan Patterson now Looking like he's going to get overtaken on the outside by at least a couple of these cars. Must have had a terrible run coming out of turn 3. As there was a little bit of contact there with Gerald West. Not enough to unsettle either of them, but Dylan still dropping back. Not sure what's going on with that 3 car, but yeah, he just doesn't seem to be getting hooked up right. This time now, he sends it into turn 3 to maintain that position. What is that? That's about 8th position there. So things for the most part have started to settle down a little bit. Thomas Harmon now with 2.5 tenths over the second place of Brian Chambliss. Things have definitely started to get strung out. Got Matt Burgess sitting there in 3rd, just ready to pounce. And same with Charles Becker sitting back there in 4th. And this top group of 4 have actually cleared out over the 88 of Jonathan Hernandez and the 86 of Gerald West. Jonathan going real slow all of a sudden. Did he maybe cop the wall on the exit of 1? Dylan Patterson now making it 3 wide to get around Jaron Sanchez and Logan Lansford at the same time. Logan now swapping from the outside to the inside to try and get a move around Jaron. Thinks better of it, it slots back in behind. And I thought that this race was starting to settle down a little bit. Shame on me. So we're going to go back to looking at our leaders here. These guys are just pulling a gap. They got 2 seconds over Gerald West at the moment. And it looks like they're only just going to keep on increasing on that margin. Because these guys are not battling. Speaking of battles, I did see a couple of battles starting to form back there in the field a little bit. Right, this is the battle for 9th position. And these guys have been in the thick of it for most of the race. It looks like every time I go to them, the big move is done. We do see a move going on there just behind these guys. It doesn't look like Dustin German quite had the legs to get the move made. Excuse me. As we see Brian Harris going on the inside of Brandon Bennett. I couldn't quite get that move pulled off and he pulls back in behind. it looks like we have actually lost Brian Beach. Not sure what's happened to Brian there, but yeah, he gone. And for anyone who cares, the 20 cars, including myself, who are registered for this entire session of Strength of Field, is a 23:34. As now Matt Burgess has taken over second place officially from Brian Pizzicami, and Thomas Harmon has pulled away. And Matt Burgess has actually dropped back as well. Something has happened at the front here, and I have missed it. Let's see if we can go back and see what's happened here. So these guys were sitting in behind Thomas. We're going to watch this in fast forward. They battle. They keep battling. They go 3 wide. They keep battling. And they keep battling. Okay. So, Thomas Harmon, due to the fact that he hasn't been involved in a battle, has absolutely cleared away from the rest of the field. He now has 2 seconds over his nearest rival, which is still the 21 of Brian Chambliss. And Matt Burgess, because of all that battling, did make his way up to second and has dropped all the way back to 5th position. So I'm not sure what's happened there, but oh, sorry about that, guys. I got a little bit confused because I muted for a sneeze, and it turned into a very painful cough. So the 16 was looking around the outside of the 21 there for a move. We got a big battle just behind these guys. Look at that. 3 of Dylan Patterson, the 86 of Gerald West, Matt Burgess trying to get himself mixed back up into it, and the 88 of Jonathan Hernandez, who'll be wanting a better result than this. Even Logan Lansford trying to buy his way into this battle. These guys will probably be starting to think about a pit stop here soon. I'm not sure how long a long run would go for. But I would be expecting them to be needing to pit fairly soon. As we see the 3 now making a move on the 86 of Gerald West to try and take that 4th position away. I must actually commend all of these drivers. We haven't had a single caution yet. And I spotted for the one great John A. Theodore yesterday in the DRL race here at Pocono. And it was an absolute caution fest. And that was FIY, just another race that Thomas Harmon had won. As you see, just behind these guys, Logan Lansford making a move on the inside of Jonathan Hernandez as he takes that 6th position away from Jonathan. It's not going well for Jonathan this race, as Logan now makes a move onto the inside of the 86 of Gerald West. He's got the overlap going. Can he get the move done? It looks like Gerald's just got the momentum advantage on him. Logan now continuing to go the short way around the inside of the track. Jonathan says, hey, if you guys are going to go this slow, I want my spot back. And he's now on the outside of Logan. Matt Burgess is there as well. As we're going to go 3 wide off of the tunnel turn, Logan says, nah, none of that for me. Jonathan Hernandez says, thank you for my spot back. And Matt Burgess says, come on Logan, play the game, mate. As things are definitely starting to heat up here, as we have just passed a quarter of the way through this race a couple of laps ago. Saying that, Dylan Patterson now, the 3 car, trying to make a march towards 3rd place car of Charles Becker. It's only about 1.5 seconds that separates Dylan from Charles, as we see the first pit stop being made by the 86 of Gerald West. He is definitely only the first one to make a pit stop. Maybe going for a little bit of strategy here with a possible undercut. Nice into the box. As we can see, he's getting at least right sides. He's going to get the left sides too. And he is off and away. Can he get back out without going a lap down? Indeed, he can. It doesn't look like we've got anyone else. Oh, we got a caution! Caution flag has flown. I think that was for the 8 of Frank Isaacson. Oh no. Let's have a look at what happened to our buddy Frank. Oh, I see turn 2. He got onto the apron and just tapped the wall on exit, almost collecting Brandon Miller with him, and just nosed it heavily into that inside wall. That is unfortunate for Frank. That'll probably put him out of the race. But that absolutely benefits Gerald West, who's just come in for his pit stop. Gerald could now take the lead of this race if he chooses to stay out. Now we're seeing everyone coming into the pits. Brian Chambliss is also a lap down here. I'm not sure what's happened to him. He was looking pretty good there for a while. Let's see if we can see anything that's happened to him. He might have actually been the one that brought out the caution here. Oh, he got loose into turn one and blew his engine. That was a weird one. Yeah, that one's very hard to explain. Let's see if either of these two fellas. No, neither of them wanted to talk. We're gonna pull Brian up for a chat. Hey, Brian, this is Corey up in the booth. Do you have a copy, man?
Yeah, I got you.
What happened to you?
Well, so Thomas was getting away there, and I was like, maybe I could try to find some speed. So I started shifting the lap previous, and then I went into that one and put her in the wrong gear and shot her sky high, so she's blown up.
Oh, I was wondering because it was a very weird looking slide that you had going, and then just the instantaneous explosion of the engine.
Yeah, that's what happens when you shove her in third gear. I don't know how many thousand RPM the computer would have registered, but it was about as high as it could go and shot her through the roof.
Alright, man, well, while we got you up in the booth, anyone you'd like to thank real quick?
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and thank the league for putting this on. I wish I could have given a better show there, but it is what it is. Thank you for broadcasting as well. I appreciate it.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Brian, and we'll see you again next week.
Yep, we'll see you then.
Alright, so that was the 21 of Brian Chambliss, guys. An unfortunate victim of downshifting. And just like I had called it, Gerald West has taken the lead of the race. We've got Dylan Patterson offering himself up to be an in-race reporter. But we'll just let him concentrate on the getting ready to race. I think the next person that we need to drag up here actually is Frank Isaacson. So let's see if we can get Frank. Hey Frank, this is Corey up in the booth. Do you have a copy, man?
Yeah, go ahead.
Alright, so we've seen you make a little bit of a mistake there in turn two. What happened from your perspective there, man?
I just got up on the apron, went in too shallow, and tapped the wall coming out.
Is there much damage, or are you pretty much done for the day?
Well, I only had a minute and a half of required, but I just took a lap, and my wheels like all the way to the right to go.
Oof. Well, that's no good, man. Hopefully you can get that sorted out for the end of the race. The biggest thing you got working in your favour at the moment is your only car laps down.
Yeah, I got just about exactly 9 minutes left on optional, so I'm just gonna let that run out.
Alrighty, awesome. Well, good luck for the rest of the race, man, and maybe we'll be pulling you up again later on.
Thank you very much.
Alright guys, so that was the 8 of Frank Isaacson, and we just heard his side of the story as well. He just got onto the apron. As we see the pace cars bringing the field through turn 2. They're getting ready to go green again. And the pace car is in.
Go, go, go. Green
And
flag.
we are off and racing again. Gerald West with a terrible start there. Thomas Harmon getting all of the restart and then some. And Gerald's been turned. Gerald West has just been absolutely dumped. And that was by the 16 of Charles Becker there. Charles had the overlap and Gerald just kept on coming down. I don't think there was very much that Charles could have done there. And that has brought out our second caution in very quick succession. As the field is starting to catch up to the pace car now. Let's hope the damage on Gerald's car is fairly minimal. The field still haven't caught up to the pace car yet. It looks like there's a few people that have indeed gone for pit stops now, even though we barely had 100 feet on the tyres. Charles Becker has taken the lead of the race. Yeah, Gerald won't be too happy though. He was in such a good position there after making the perfect strategy call for pitting under green. Just for it to all come crumbling down like that. And so far we have got two, or at least one DNF, and that is Brian Beach, the 18 car. Still not sure what happened to him. In fact, while we're under caution here, let's see if we can find out what happened to him. So he's sitting there behind Frank. Going to turn 2, all is fine. Oh, he's hit the wall. And hit the wall off of 2 and smashed the inside fence. And he's taken to the escape road. So that's what happened to him. Well, that is unfortunate for Brian Beach there. It looks like everyone who wanted to make stops has made them. And Thomas, after being in the lead when that caution came back out, has dropped all the way down to the 11th position. So he's definitely going to have some work to do if he wants to work his way back up to the front. And we are just about halfway through this race now. Sounds like Charles might be clutching it a little bit, trying to save that extra fuel. As I think we're pretty much on 2 to go here, which means we're going to be going green with 30 laps left in this race. Next lap is going to be lap 30 of 60. Charles is definitely putting in the clutch to save as much fuel as he can. Dylan Patterson taking to the escape road there in the final corner to try and save a little bit of fuel. The lights are gone out on the pace car. We are indeed at 1 to go now, which means we are going green with half this race left to run. Some more cars making some last minute pit stops there. Trying to get that fuel and tire advantage. Pushing on your left rear and it turns you that way. Oh, damn. Oh, that is not good at all. And that is coming from Gerald West, guys, in the chat. So he was getting pushed on the left rear, and it sent him that way to get spun out. As the field now comes through turn 2, everyone trying to reset and get recalibrated to go again. It looks like we might have also lost Dustin German. I'm not sure what's happened to Dustin, but he's been shown as, in my timing software, as being a lap down, and in fact out of the server.
Go. Green
And we are
flag.
back underway again. Charles Becker with a huge jump over the rest of the field. Thomas Harmon with a big move from the outside to the inside. We got a 3-wide battle here, as we see the 22 of Brandon Miller getting shuffled back down the pack a little bit. Brandon, one of the best drivers at saving tyres. We've also got a battle for the lead going on here. Dylan Patterson has just taken the lead from Charles Becker. Charles now under attack from Jerry Glenn. Jerry taken to the inside of turn 3. But that momentum that Charles just got up high maintained that second position for him. Back and forth we have Jaron Sanchez. Looks like back in the pack a little bit. We've got a little bit of a battle forming here. Logan Lansford on the inside of Brandon Miller. Brandon just about getting into the wall, just managed to keep it off it. I've got Brian Harris under siege as well. He's got Jonathan Hernandez on his inside. Right behind them is Gerald West. Right behind Gerald is the 38 of Thomas Harmon. Thomas looking at carving his way back through the field to try and get back to the front. Gets around the outside of Jonathan Hernandez. Now what can Thomas do from here? See now Brian Harris getting a big push from the 86 of Gerald West. They couldn't do too terribly much with it, as we go just about 3 wide through the tunnel turn. Jaron Sanchez on the outside. The racing has definitely picked up in intensity here. These drivers putting it all on the line. And we've still got 27 laps left to run in this race. Gerald West and Thomas Harmon carving their way back through the field. Jonathan Hernandez experimenting with different planes of existence. It's not quite working out for him, as now looks like Gerald West has been held up by the 7 of Brian Harris, which has allowed Thomas Harmon to get up his inside. And right behind Thomas is the 12 of Matt Burgess. On Matt's outside is actually going to be the 42 of Logan Lansford. Thomas with that inside run. Oh, he just gets into the left front of Gerald West there. Gets the position, but only after Gerald had to check up to make sure he didn't get into the wall. The 12 of Matt Burgess now trying to work on the inside of Gerald West. Gerald still holding on to the advantage on the outside line. In fact, Gerald has now cleared out away from Matt Burgess. And Matt's now under siege from the outside. Oh wow, Gerald West splitting the middle of Brian Harris and Thomas Harmon there. Logan Lansford now on the outside of Thomas Harmon to try and get that move to stick. Brian Harris now playing piggy in the middle, 3 wide. Logan with the big move on the outside. Matt trying to give Thomas a shot going into turn 1. See if he can get around Brian Harris. And he can. This has been a very exciting restart so far. And the fact that these drivers hasn't crashed yet after that restart is speaking volumes for the skill level here. Matt Burgess now working on the inside of Brian Harris. Brian get a little bit loose on the exit of the tunnel turn. And he's let Jonathan Hernandez go through as well. These guys are so close to disaster that you wouldn't even realize it. Just up ahead, see Logan Lansford working on the inside of Thomas Harmon. Just about came up into him, but managed to just pull out of the move in time. Just go back to looking at our leader for a second. He's got the 98 of Jerry Glenn working his inside through the tunnel turn. And right behind them is the 16 of Charles Becker. He hasn't gone away, he's still right there. And Jerry Glenn has now taken the lead of this race from Dylan Patterson. Dylan now under siege from Charles Becker in the 16. Charles with a big run coming off of turn 3. Looked like Dylan might have actually caught the wall a little bit there on the straightaway as they go 3 wide for the lead in turn 1. Jerry cutting down really close to Charles there, pinching him down on the bottom of turn 1, holding on to that advantage on the slight outside of him and holding on to the lead. Dylan Patterson now looking high on the 16 of Charles Becker. Right behind them is Gerald West trying to take it 3 wide in the tunnel turn. That's not going to work, Sonny Jim. And Thomas Harmon is right there as well now. Coming into turn 3, Gerald West has just folded in behind Thomas Harmon there. Thomas now trying to find a way past these 2 cars in front of him, the 16 and the 3. What can Thomas do to get around these guys? And will Gerald maybe look at giving Charles Becker a little bit of a tap just to say that he didn't appreciate what happened on that previous restart? Thomas now working on the inside of Charles Becker. Couldn't quite get the move done. Folds back just behind a little bit. Charles now doing whatever he can do to hold on to that 3rd position at the moment. Charles is definitely driving very defensively, and it's working for him so far. And it looks like things have just started to settle down very slightly here at the front of the pack. It looks like things have just settled down full stop at the moment. As I say that, Thomas Harmon still looking low on the 16 of Charles Becker. Thomas looking to carry on the momentum from his DRL race yesterday. Charles now looking to the inside of Dylan Patterson, getting a shot from Thomas Harmon on the exit of turn 2. He does still have the inside of Dylan, but that severely compromised his run through turn 3. He just about pushed up into Thomas Harmon there. Thomas now taking that 3rd position. Gerald West looking at taking the outside of Charles Becker as well. Now that could have almost turned into a disaster caused by Thomas Harmon there in the tunnel turn. Looks like for the moment everything has sorted itself out. Even with Logan Lansford still looking on the outside of the 16. Couldn't quite get the move done there in turn 1. Let's see what he can do in turn 2, the tunnel turn. Logan still holding strong around the outside. And he gets the advantage and gets the position on Charles. Charles now has the 12 of Matt Burgess on his outside to contend with. Matt using that outside to perfection, staying in the draft of everyone else. And he gets the position on Charles Becker now. Charles has dropped all the way back to 7th. As we go look behind these guys a little bit. We've got Brandon Stevens working on the outside of Jaron Sanchez at the moment. Jaron not one to let a fight go begging, trying to hold on to that 9th position with everything he's got. He makes a nice move down on the inside of turn 2 and does in fact hold on to 9th there. As we're going to go back and have a look at the leader right now. He's got a little bit of a gap, only 0.8 of a second, 0.9 of a second. Over to 3 of Dylan Patterson. Dylan has got company, Gerald West and Thomas Harmon right there behind him. And Gerald now under siege from Thomas Harmon working on his outside. Can Thomas get that move to stick? Just about as they come through turn 2. There it is. He's got it to stick. It's not very often an outside pass in turn 2 will work, but it did on this occasion. And it looks like Gerald West is actually going to the pits. Gerald West has gone for a pit stop. That's a bit different. I didn't think they were going for long enough to warrant it. But with 17 laps to go in this race, this could be the move of the race. Going for the big undercut. As now the 3 of Dylan Patterson has got Thomas Harmon on his tail to worry about. Thomas taking the inside line on Dylan, passes him with perfection. And it looks like we're going to have a flurry. Green flag stops and Thomas has spun it. The caution has come out. Thomas was spinning, trying to get to the pit lane. And it has all gone wrong for our 2nd place in points. Let's go back and take a quick replay of that. I think this decision by Thomas was a very late one. He could see that the leaders were going in, Dylan was coming in, and yeah, he wanted to turn down to it and just got a little bit loose there. He is actually very lucky not to get collected by anyone else, especially right there. Brian Pizzicami having to go around his outside to miss him. So this is going to shake things up a little bit. So I'm not sure how pit stops will work when the caution comes out. But this is definitely going to set up a very interesting end of this race. we'll have to wait to see how it all unfolds. Brian Harris has been credited with leading the lap. And Frank Isaacson gets one of his laps down. Or one of his laps back. He's now 7 laps down. And to think the race isn't even over yet. Alright guys, well we're rolling here under caution. We're going to go for a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we will still be under caution. Alrighty, we are back live. And as you can see, Jerry Glenn has come away with the lead right now. Gerald West sitting there in P2. We've got Dylan Patterson in 3rd, Thomas Harmon in 4th, Matt Burgess 5th, Brian Harris 6th. I think Brian Harris is actually going to be a lot lower than 6th. Just got to wait for everything to update properly. By the way, everyone's bunching up. I think we're going to be on 1 to go here. 13 laps left in this race, so we're going to have a 12-lap restart. Dylan massively checking up that inside line for some reason. field now comes out of turn 2. Everyone shuffling to get into their positions properly. Everyone wanting this to go green for the rest of the way. The pace car is in, and we are off and racing again.
Green flag.
Jerry with a huge jump there off the start. But that could be to his detriment, because here comes Thomas Harmon and Gerald West. Jerry's got to try and block both lanes at once. Dylan Patterson, the big loser there, dropping back to third. In fact, dropping back to fourth. And he's now pushing really hard on the back of Gerald. And Gerald has just spun Jerry. Can they hold it? Oh, there's another spin in the background. There is just complete chaos and anarchy. We have a big crash here. That is going to bring out the caution again. So we saw what happened to Jerry there. What happened to the 16? He got a tap from Brandon Miller. Brandon also came down into the 7. So we got a couple of strong cars involved in that. This is going to put Gerald back into the lead of the race. So we're going to be restarting with only a few laps left to run. And everyone's got to try and reset again. The people at the back have got to decide whether they want to take a pit stop here or not. But let's go and have a look at that crash again. We'll watch it from Jerry. You know, we need to analyze this a little bit. Let's get analyses going. Alright, so we're at entry to the corner. You know what? That is a big old netcode right there. I think contact was going to be made there regardless. It looked like that Jerry there was probably turning in a little bit too quickly, but yeah, that definitely looked like it was a netcode kind of a situation. At least for the actual incident itself. But that has left Jerry out of this race. It's unfortunate. He was a fairly strong car for the entire race. It's also going to put Charles Becker back in the pack. Not sure whether Charles has much damage or not. Either way, this is definitely going to set up an interesting end of the race here. Looks like fifth on back. Took pit stops there. Thomas Harmon, the car in fifth position. I'd like to get Jerry's side of the story there. Doesn't look like Jerry is actually in a voice channel. See if we can get him. As we are on 1 to green now. Also, Jerry's actually gone offline, so we can't even get him in for a chat to see what he had to say about it. As we're coming to the green flag now for what should be the last restart. And we are off and racing.
Go, go, go. Green flag.
Jared West with a huge jump off the pole there. Jaron Sanchez commandingly taking second place. Could this be Jaron's second best result in a row? And we got some more contact there. I think that was the 88 of Jonathan Hernandez. It is. He's slipping back. He's had contact with Brandon Miller. And we have another caution flying. Let's reverse that a little bit and have a look. So 3 wide behind Jaron. Brandon Bennett maybe not realizing now 3 wide, not exactly giving much space there to Jonathan. Jonathan trying his best to hold on. Oh, just has some contact with the 28 of Brandon Stevens. The 22 of Brandon Miller getting into it too. And unfortunately, Miller ending up in the inside wall there. Kept going though. So I'm not sure whether this is going to be the end of the race now, or whether we'll have a green-white checkered or something. I'm not sure if the change was made for green-white checkered finishes. See Dylan Patterson doing a big fakie for the pits. But we do see some people taking the pit stop, and looks like 2 of them were actually ones that were involved in that incident with the 28 and the 88. Charles Becker also back in the pits. Brandon Miller has stayed out, and true to his form as last week, no front clip on his car. He had no front clip last week, and he's got no front clip this week, so he's got a 100% ratio of losing the front clip of his car. So I think we're going to get a green-white checkered without it being an official green-white checker, if my calculations are correct. Alright, the lights have gone out on the pace car. We are indeed 1 to green, which means we are indeed in a green-white checker situation. Which means my calculations were correct. Go me. So we're going to have Gerald West, Jaron Sanchez, Brandon Bennett, Matt Burgess, Dylan Patterson, Brian Pizzicami, Thomas Harmon, Logan Lansford, Brian Harris, Brandon Miller, Brandon Stevens, Jonathan Hernandez, and Charles Becker rounding out your top 13 lead lap cars. Frank Isaacson and Brian Chambliss 14th and 16th. Many laps down each. Alright, and the pace car is in, and we are off and racing.
Green flag.
Gerald with another huge restart. Brandon Bennett looking to go with him on the inside. Couldn't quite get up onto the inside of Jaron Sanchez. Jaron still holding on to that second position at the moment. Now Jaron trying to look like he's trying to get something on the outside going. Couldn't quite get it done. Still just filing in behind Gerald there. Matt Burgess now raging up on the inside, and so is Thomas Harmon in the back. Matt Burgess with fresher tyres takes that inside run from Jaron and gets the second position. And here comes Brian Pizzicami as well, with Logan Lansford and Dylan Patterson. Dylan giving Jaron a bit of a shot coming through turn 3 there. As we start the last lap of this race, Thomas Harmon trying to get onto the inside to get something to do. Looks like he wants to try and make it 3 wide as they come through turn number 1. And we have contact. Oh, we got lots of contact. We got another big crash. Oh no, this has taken out so many people. Oh, second in points. Thomas Harmon is caught up in that. We're going to go back to the lead. Where's the lead? Where's the lead? Here is the lead. We'll go back and dissect that crash later. At the moment, we got a battle for the win going on here between Gerald and Matt as they come through turn number 3. Who's going to have it as they come across the line? Gerald holding on to the advantage at the moment. Matt with a big run. Can he get there? Can he get there? No, not quite. Gerald West gets the win. Matt Burgess in P2. Who is going to get third? It's going to be the one of Brandon Bennett. Oh my god. Congratulations to Brandon Bennett on getting third place. What a crazy way to end that race. As we see some of the damaged cars from that crash coming through. We got to go and have a look at that. Alright, so let's see. Let's dissect this. What happens? Brian Pizzicami gets onto the apron. And he pushes up into Jaron. Jaron slips up in front of the 3. The 78 has lost all of his momentum. And gets hit by Thomas Harmon as they almost went 5 wide. and Jaron gets hit by the 3 of Dylan Patterson. The 38 overcorrecting, spins out, hits Brian, hits Logan. They almost collect Brandon Bennett. Let's watch Brandon Bennett for a second. He just sneaks through there like a ninja. Jonathan Hernandez gets through this as well. Let's just back this up for a sec. Let's watch Jonathan get through this. He goes around a 3. He sees a gap. Oh, he just collects Logan a little bit there. Still gets through the crash. You see the 21 of Brian Chambliss there spinning out. Got the 22 of Brandon Miller who's just gotten into that. Also got the 7 making his way through it. Wow, what a way to end this race. Alright guys, we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we will have podium interviews. Alrighty, guys, we are back, and we're going to kick things off a little bit differently here. We're going to start off things with the four of Jaron Sanchez, um, just because that was such a big crash right there at the end. We need time to process it, and we also want to hear the driver's perspective of that crash. So, who else better to pick than league owner and operator Jaron Sanchez? Jaron, man,
Yes, sir.
you were on for such a great result, and then turn one of the last lap happens. What happened from your perspective, man?
Well, I was just trying to hang on. I really shouldn't have probably been up there on the front row on the last end of that race, but I just tried to stay up there as I could. And Brian got down there, and I was gonna make the corner pretty good. I think I would have cleared him on exit with the arc I had, but got the apron and came up into me. It happens.
Now let's talk about the rest of the race real quick. Very long green flag run at the start of the race, and then it kind of got a little bit stop-starty there towards the end. What was it like for you trying to reset and work out some strategy for getting yourself up that far front?
Well, really, it was by accident because I didn't catch the field on the one of the cautions quick enough to notice that Thomas and Jonathan and them were pitting way up there. So I probably would have followed them like a sheep. But since I didn't see them, I stayed out and actually gave me good track position for the rest of the race. So that's how that happened.
Well, that's fair enough, man. Well, I reckon you did alright. Unfortunately, because of that crash, you did fall all the way back to 10th, but hey, still a top 10. So you still got a
Yeah.
little bit of that momentum going that you started up last week.
Yeah, we'll keep it going.
And Iowa next week.
I'm okay at Iowa. I think we'll be all right.
Alrighty. Well, I like your confidence. Anyone you'd like to thank while we got you up here, man?
Oh yeah, I'd like to thank all the drivers as usual. We put on some pretty good races. It's a nice break from official racing where it's 2 laps caution, so it's kind of nice to come out here with the boys and get 20 green flag runs. And I'd like to thank you for doing the broadcast and my wife and my dogs. And yeah,
Alrighty. Well, thank you very much, Jaron, and we'll catch you next week.
all right, thank you.
Alright, guys. So that was Jaron Sanchez, league owner and operator, finishing 10th after a terrible, terrible crash there. Alrighty, next up, we are going to be doing the Hard Charger Award. And tonight's Hard Charger is going to the 7 of Brian Harris. Brian, just sneaked your way through that last crash there and got the P5. How do you feel, man?
I feel great about the P5. I think I wet myself going through it, though.
Now, you haven't had the best of luck since you've been racing with us here. You've done, what, 3 or 4 races? Or with some pretty terrible results, for lack of a better term. How does it feel to finally get a good result on the board and also get a Hard Charger Award?
Feels amazing. Yeah, it's been 4 races. But yeah, it's been pretty good as far. I don't mind the racing. I've been struggling. I don't know why. I've been just so, I guess, anxious in the races and nervous. So I guess it's kind of gotten to me because I'm trying not to destroy everybody that's been racing together for a while.
Well, I guess that's one of the harder things about joining in on a league that's already part of the way through the season. You don't have that 1 or 2 races at the very start to feel your way through and figure out how everyone races.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot harder and a bigger struggle, and at times it's kind of feels like a letdown because I got 2 people that invited me into the league, and when you don't perform very well, it's kind of like, why is he here?
Oh, don't worry, if I was racing, I'd be right at the back every single race. And I know that for a fact. Alright, man, well, let's talk about the race. A very long green flag run to start things off. And then we kind of got a little bit stop-starty there towards the end. How was it for you as a whole?
Well, actually, at the end, when we had the long green flag run, I actually started to gain a little bit at the end on the pack that I was with at the back. So the tires were a little bit better for me at the end. But once we started doing the short little short runs, I didn't have the speed to keep up with everybody else. The only practice I really had was the 1 hour before we actually went racing.
Oh, sorry about that. I just had to mute so I could have a cough.
All good.
All right, man. While we get you up here in the booth, anyone you'd like to thank for helping you out here tonight?
I'd like to thank Jonathan Hernandez and Logan for bringing me into the league, and I'll try to do a whole lot better than what I've been doing.
All right, no worries. Well, thank you very much for your time, man. And we look forward to seeing you again next week at Iowa.
Appreciate it. I hope to do pretty good there. It's gonna be a battle.
Alrighty, guys. So that was a hard charger tonight, the 7 of Brian Harris. Coming up next, a man who we don't get to speak to too terribly often, but because of circumstances, manages to get himself up into P3 here. We are, of course, talking to the one car driven by the one and only Brandon Bennett. Brandon, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. That was fun.
That was fun. I'm glad you had fun. It looked amazing from my seat.
Yeah, I bet, and I bet everybody watching it, they were like, "Wow, that's pretty good stuff." Um, yeah, woo, sweating.
Now, let's not talk about the race just yet. Let's talk about you navigating through that crash. Because that was a big crash. The track was fairly blocked. And you managed to skate through it with minimal damage there. How'd you do it? And what was the mindset seeing the crash happening?
So I kind of figured that something was going to happen. So I actually backed up turn one a lot. So I saw Thomas. I saw his back end coming around, and I saw him overcorrect it. So I just went straight to the bottom, and I got hit in the side. I think by Jaron, maybe somebody else, and I just stuck down there on the bottom, hit a couple bumps, jumped it, and yeah, I was I was pretty impressed with myself there.
Well, that's pretty good, man. You were very lucky to get through the crash from what we saw in the replay cameras. Um, but man, P3, I think this is your first podium with us so far. How does that feel just in itself?
Yeah, no, it's great. I've been trying to work on getting better here. The beginning of the season, I had a lot of bad luck. Um, but last week I finished seventh. This week I'm third. So just get better each week and get up there and start competing for the race lead and the wins of it.
Alright, awesome, man. Now let's talk about this entire race. Um, Long green flag run to begin things with, and then we got quite a few fairly quick fire cautions there. How was the mindset for you going from such a long green flag run and changing it up to try and deal with those short runs?
Yeah, so I was actually hoping it would just stay green because I was starting to pick them off there on that long green run. And then we got the caution, and then I started thinking about fuel. And I think it was the third caution. We were going back to green. I decided to tuck down pit road right when they got to green. And if it would have went green all the way, I was about zero point 0.6 to the good. So I was going to try to make it only on those few stops. And then at the end, I kind of had a feeling if we got bunched up there at the end that there's going to be some wrecks, a little contact there. And I just try to keep up with Jaron and Gerald for the most part there at the end.
Alrighty, man. Well, while we get you up in the booth, anyone you'd like to thank for helping you out here tonight?
Yeah, man. Well, I would like to thank you, Corey, for taking time out of your day to give us this broadcast, and then Jaron for putting it on, and congrats to Gerald.
Alrighty, awesome. Thank you very much, man. And we look forward to seeing you again next week at Iowa.
All right, man. I'll be there. Woo!
Alrighty, guys. That was the third place getter, the number 1 of Brandon Bennett. Coming up next, we have a man who we've spoken to many times before. He's even sponsored a couple of the events that we've run at. We are, of course, talking about the number 12 of Matt Burgess. Second place here tonight, Matt. How do you feel, man?
Well,
the last two races I've gotten wrecked out, so I'm actually happy. But man, I wanted that win, but I didn't quite have enough to get past her.
Now, when that big crash happened on that last lap there, you were in front of it. What did you see from your mirror, or were you just focused on trying to get past Gerald?
I was focused on Gerald. I didn't even know they crashed until I heard him on the Discord, and I kind of glanced and I saw people like spinning way back there. But I was focused on trying to get the Gerald and get by.
Alright, well, let's talk about that run to the line. You almost had him. We could see that you were very threatening, especially going into turn 3 there. Do you think you could have done anything a little bit different to try to have gotten a better run going onto the main straight?
I'm the only thing I think of is if I'd taken a little bit wider coming into it. Um, but it all kind of goes back to turn one. I didn't quite catch that right because I was hoping to catch him before we hit the tunnel turn, but I wasn't quite there. So I knew that I'd have to try and get out of turn three. But I maybe should have taken a little wider, maybe got a little bit of run. But even then, I don't know if I would have got up far enough to actually take the win from him.
Now let's talk about this race as a whole. Long green flag run there to begin things with. And then, we got quite a few cautions there towards the end. You were there or thereabout, but I noticed that you were playing a bit of a fresher tyre strategy, opting to pit for most of the cautions. Um, what was the kind of mindset going in between, that really long run and then having so many short runs?
Tires make such a huge difference here. The drop off is pretty quick, and then Thomas had mentioned in the race too that the heat cycles on the tires really make a big difference too. So even though, we on the one green flag we maybe got half a lap on them, it makes such a huge difference to get that heat cycle on the tires. They don't stick as well. So there's a bunch of us that pit there right at the last second, and a few people stayed out, but. Um, Yeah, new tires are king here as far as especially on that first lap.
Alright, man. Well, while we get you up in here in the booth, we know you got a few people to thank. Who would you like to thank for helping you out here tonight?
I'd like to thank Jaron and Logan for not wrecking me. It's- They've I've actually had some incidents with them, so um, I'm luckily I avoided all the wrecks this well. Appreciate all the guys that race clean. All the guys that showed up. This race was hard fought. I mean, there's a lot of jostling with the way it was, but um, these guys that show up week after week, I mean, it's fun to race them. So hats off to them. Hope they keep showing up, and then see where it goes.
Alrighty, awesome. Thank you very much, man. And we'll see you again next week at Iowa.
Will do.
Alright, guys. So that was the second place getter tonight, the number 12 of Matt Burgess. Coming up next, we have a man that we don't get to talk to very often. Mostly out of his own bad luck. But tonight, he's definitely turned things around, even with having a very, very close call. We are talking, of course, about the 86 of Gerald West, tonight's winner. Gerald, let's talk about that restart. Not that last one. You know the one that I'm talking about. What happened on the start? It looked like you got a very bad start on that restart where you first started on the pole, and you were just getting a little bit of tap there from the 16.
Hey, what's up, Corey? Yeah, man. I was actually just talking to him. Right before after the race, we talked about it a little bit, and yeah, I got a terrible restart. Just caught me off guard. It goes green so fast once the pace car turns left down the pit road, and I just kind of got caught sleeping right there and didn't get up to speed. And I don't think that would have mattered anyways. They usually go 3 or 4 wide either way. So, it's just a product of racing with these cars, man. The draft, it makes these cars a whole lot of fun. To be able to race with a bunch of guys like this, although it is a little bit frustrating sometimes because it's so many laps left in the race and you don't have any fast repairs. So you kind of want to be careful. At the same time, you got to kind of race what you're given and what's going on around you and stuff. But yeah, so I started off a little bit slow, and that put us 3 wide there, and I think he just barely touched me on my left rear, and it kind of turned me left, and once that happened, I just went right across his nose, and then luckily I didn't hit anything there. So the caution come out, we grouped it back up, and we got another shot at it. So no hard feelings. It's just good hard racing. It's just part of it.
All right, now let's talk about that final restart there. You did just enough to get a good run to get away from all the shenanigans that ensued in turn one on that last lap. What was it like battling with Matt so close as you're coming to the line?
Yeah, like I restarted 3 times up front, and twice it had got me, and I knew that I had to get a really good restart. This time, so I just started going as soon as I could. The first time I wasn't for sure if I had to wait for the green to come out, which is one of the reasons I was asleep there at the wheel. But that last restart, I knew I had to get a good jump, and I'd already seen somebody go before the green, so I knew that. And I've been away for a little bit, so I wasn't quite sure of the rules, and I always like to follow the rules. And it's just how it goes, man. I've been real busy this summer, but it's good to be back. And anyways, once I got that good restart, I tried to move up into the higher lane to allow Jaron to catch my draft, to pull him around, because he had pushed me down the backstretch instead of trying to put a move on me going into the tunnel turn. He had pushed me, actually. He didn't go for it. So on that last restart, I was wanting to do the same thing, and it worked out. I just don't think he got enough draft off of me. But they went behind us 3 wide down into the corner there. That's how it goes with 2 to go. They send it, and I was luckily out front at that point, looking in the mirror. I seen the mess go on in the mirror, and I knew that there was going to be one or two that's going to still come. So I had to do everything I could to keep it out in front of them. And what a great finish, though, racing to the line there. I had a big lead on him coming to the white flag, and the draft. Actually, he ran the fastest lap of the race on that very last lap there, just because of the draft off of me. And by the time we got to the turn three, coming off turn three to the checker, he was all over me there. So I had to try to throw a block. Maybe I wasn't for sure if I was going to be able to get it or not. And you got to be very careful doing that because you can end up wrecking yourself. And fortunately, we was able to hold him off there coming to the checkered flag.
All right, awesome, man. Anyone you'd like to thank while we got you up here in the booth, man?
Yeah, man. It all happens because of Jaron and you, Corey. Man, you guys you really make this league a lot of fun. So big shout out to Jaron Sanchez for what he does, all the work he does behind the scenes. I know he's out there working right now on the points, and I know how tough it is since the new update with the green white checkers. So big shout out to him and the Output Racing League, man. It's a lot of fun coming over here. It's good to be back, and I've been away for a little while, and it's always fun watching the broadcast. And I appreciate you for being up there, and you actually gave me a good shot of the replay there because I'm wearing a Rift out there in the car, so I kind of got you up on the ceiling of the car, so I can see what's going on. I don't pay no attention while we're under green. And yeah, that little contact with Jerry Glenn, man, I had a little bit of space between us on my screen, so I wanted to see it one more time from your view. And I appreciate you for all the help you give me out there, man. And of course, SRTV Network on the hood. Everybody that watches, all the drivers that show up. Shout out to everybody, man.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much, man, and congratulations on an awesome win.
All right, thanks, Corey.
All right, guys. So that was the 86 of Gerald West, and that is actually going to wrap up our broadcast here for tonight. I'd like to thank you all for coming out and watching us. This has been an absolutely awesome race. Lots of action, a bit of drama there right at the very end. And on behalf of all the teams, the admin, the league owner, and myself, I'd like to wish you all a good week, and we'll see you next week when we are back here for Iowa.